Right, guys, here we are for our crypto roundtable. Just to let you know, we're doing it on the 1st and the 3rd, Wednesday of every month. That's how it will plug out. That's when we come in to connect as a team to discuss what we're bringing in for the upcoming newsletter. Sammy's having a sneezing fit there in the background, and Tristan's in space somewhere. So let's kick on in. So how we really will start this chat, we're trying to create the theme for our next newsletter in these sessions. So we were thinking that our last discussions or our last themes have really been about helping people to understand inflation in its truest form and the impact that that's going to have and how everything ties into it. We also spoke about central bank digital currencies in the edition before. What else did we talk about in that edition, Sam? I said it earlier and I can't quite recall.
Yeah, it was in that edition specifically, it was more to do with how countries were looking to back their currencies with commodities or energy and whatnot, which is pretty interesting in itself.
Yeah, absolutely. So in this month, what we thought was a good idea, because there's been a lot of challenge, you might say, in the market, we thought it might be a good idea to pull people back and say, hey, let's have a look at the bigger picture. Let's really see what's going on with a wider time horizon. So we're going to kind of re-trigger something that we spoke about in our first edition, which all of you have got access to who have the newsletter. Where Commonwealth Bank made an announcement of how they're going to open up trading for it. And did they have the views, Sam, or have they started to implement where you can have crypto-backed loans? Is that something that they're doing now, or?
Not now, but the idea behind it, the spokesperson and a lot of the news articles were alluding to and hinting at the fact that, you know, if a bank like Commonwealth, with the resources that they have and you know, a home loan provider as well, that if you're buying crypto and whatnot on their platforms, trading platforms, if you're investing in it, then there would be the opportunity eventually that you could potentially borrow against those assets, use that as a collateral for a home loan, or use it as a collateral for a personal loan. So the opportunity is there, and we know Bitcoin is, you know, right now it's very volatile, but in the future it could very well be an excellent form of collateral.
Yeah, absolutely. And the exciting news that came out in recent times, if you want to call it exciting. So one guy that I really respect is the CEO of Goldman Sachs. He was calling out, I won't forget the headline that he wrote, we're running out of ammo. So it was when we were going through this really intensive, let's cut interest rates as much as we can. And the guy's like, well, this is what's going to happen if you continue to go down this path. If you're printing money, we've got no room to move. So I found that a very interesting thing. And now they're looking at crypto-backed loans, if I'm correct, in the recent announcement that they made. So what we thought might be really useful for this month's session is to have a look on a wider time frame and say, well, hey, this is where crypto is moving. Whilst there's all this doom and gloom, let's have a look at what companies are actually coming in and adding some incredible value that you can live in the world of crypto. You don't have to go outside, because you can get loans against your crypto in fiat money. Obviously, this is going to be one of the first experiments, you might say, with it, but we foresee that once a company of the stature of Goldman Sachs gets on board, it's going to be a no-brainer for everyone else. At the end of the day, banks want to make money, and they're going to do anything that they can to make money, and they're going to utilize new technology in order to do that. And this is where we see crypto moving towards, and this is how they're going to leverage more and more, like, let's make money off interest from lending out money against collateralized crypto loans. So that's what we're going to go with. Anything else to add into that section of what you want to discuss or bring to the table with that?
I guess a lot of people would think that they're investing right now in the short term for maybe a gain in the next few years. But if you're looking through that lens and you're looking to, if you look to Bitcoin as maybe a long-term saving mechanism, which I know a lot of investors are increasingly with that mindset, you can start to see how this expands out. If these big banks are starting to allow this functionality, then you can avoid the process of selling your crypto asset, your Bitcoin or whatnot, for a capital gain. So you've taken that out as well. And then you have to think to yourself, if this is appreciating at, what was it, 150% APY over its lifespan, so every single year it's going up on average 150%, you're selling that asset back into fiat currency, which is depreciating at the rate of whatever CPI inflation is.
150%.
Yeah, exactly. And you can't guarantee or really predict how much more money is going to be printed in the short term, which could be extreme. We know that I think 80% of all US dollars in existence have been printed in the last 22 months. So that's a pretty good guidepost. And personally, I think it's going to get a bit of a tightening phase like we're seeing, and then we're going to go off again on a printing spree. So sort of the probabilities are, if you're looking at the forecasting it out, that do you really want to be selling your Bitcoin in the short term? Are you really selling it to these big companies or big whales, big investors that are already focused on that long-term use case and potential? So
yeah,
I guess that's all that out.
And just to add to that, I think the great thing about being a retail investor is you don't have to trade, where a lot of these institutions that are set up in a hedge fund way or whatever it is, they're forced to trade to make money. So interesting. Mr. T, anything that you think we can add to the first section of like to do with the collateralized loans, or do you think let's keep it simple based on that?
Oh, well, if we're just talking about loans, yeah, keeping it simple is totally fine, because typically, you know, in the next sections, the ones that I'll touch on, which I'll have a lot more to say about, I think that there are a lot of different options for loans at the moment. I think the market as well, it's probably worth touching on stable coins as well, if we're going to be talking about anything else, particularly fractionally collateralized stable coins such as Frax and NEAR, having released an algorithmic stable coin, which is similar to Luna's, you know, stable coin, UST. So I think that's worth talking about as well, because while the market's fearful, where are they going? Stable coins. So I think that's a good place for us to spend a bit of time exploring.
Yeah, nice. And it's worthwhile jumping into your section around the FA. So what are you guys thinking for this month? Now, I'm going to throw one out there, and I think you'll probably understand why. I was thinking Ripple. Now
Sorry.
I know there's obviously a bit of contention on that, but the reason that I was thinking about it, the purpose of the FAs is also to help educate people on this is really what you're investing in. And I spoke to a few people. Actually, I went to an event the other day, and I was chatting to a guy who I know I spoke with him maybe over a year ago about crypto, and he wanted to get in and all this stuff. Anyway, he's ended up he bought Ripple, and he's holding a horrible loss right now.
Oh,
and I just said, I said to him, why Ripple? Why did you buy Ripple? And he couldn't really give me an explanation. And what I often feel is Ripple, I remember back in the day when I think it was sitting at number 3, and it's a penny stock, it's cheap. Look at Bitcoin, it's expensive. Look at Ethereum, it's expensive. But this one's so cheap. It's under 20 cents, it's a penny stock. And I'm like, man. So educating people around, okay, this isn't a penny stock. This is how it works, market cap, look at that. But I also think it's good to reveal this is exactly what Ripple is and say the pros, because there's some great things, and they've definitely created a great narrative of let's help the banks go global as such and not have this, or help with international remittance.
That same narrative goes against them though, because effectively
the banks are going to create their own. Exactly.
Well, they're going to be a key part of the interledger protocol for CBDCs. So effectively, there's already models out there that link the likes of XDC, Algorand, Stellar Lumens, and XRPs in on the mix there too. So effectively, once they do get around to these CBDCs, which, you know, if we were to do a FA on XRP, it would turn into a massive cautionary tale on CBDCs, because of the fact that they're not money. Like, it's not money in the sense that you can freely choose to do what you want to do with it. It's programmable money, whereby they can impose any sort of spending limit they want. They can literally switch your money off. And people might be listening to this and thinking, oh, geez, Tristan, you're a little bit paranoid. I'm like, no, look at the digital yuan. That's exactly what they'd already do with the digital yuan in China. Obviously, everything's going to China right now, not just wealth, but policies too. People are looking at China, one of the world's like worst, human rights offenders, as going, oh, if we want to compete with them, then maybe we need social credit systems in our jurisdictions. So I raised that because XRP is effectively a vehicle that will facilitate such things. Want to get on the actual what its worth is on the investment level. from I can say at a high level that owners have had half the share of Ripple since its inception. So how people have remained so dedicated to the XRP army, they call it, is actually a mystery, because since its inception, the founders have just been perpetually dumping on the community because they have half the token supply. And then, like I said, the interledger protocol as well. Other aspects such as I remember a couple of years ago, because Australian banks actually put a lawsuit against Ripple because of their OSCO Pay ID function, which is pretty much instant settlement. So I can send Joe $100 instantly through Pay ID. I believe there are some sort of IP conflicts there, thus the lawsuit. I don't know the progress of that. And then there's another aspect as well. I recall when XRP were full on marketing, going, we've got this partnership with MasterCard. They're trialing us, but then it turned out they paid for the trial. So I thought that level of dishonesty is just so systematic throughout the actual, throughout that asset, and those that manage that asset, that again, you can tell that I've clearly got a bias. And so maybe this is a good reason for me to do an FA on it. But I can't see it being anything other than a cautionary tale not to invest into it. But of course, that's not going to stop the 26 billion or however much is already currently invested into it.
Yeah, and I think our position as an education company is to try and help people see through the conditioning, because that's kind of what I think it is.
Exactly.
Ripple was really conditioned into people that this is a good investment and it's cheap and it's going to go here because of this and this, and it's like, okay, that sounds good, let me go forward. Very few people have really done a deep dive into it, and even from there, when they have done a deep dive into it, they're in denial. They're investing, they don't want to sell. So and obviously the SEC stuff, it sounds like it's not going too well. So I think it's a very contentious one to bring up, and I'm sure a lot of our clients will watch this and be like, no, Ripple's great. But I also think let's just be objective, pull back the curtains. I think it's going to help a lot of people to have here's what's going on.
I'm happy to do that one. The second one that I'll want to do, and I'll stand by this, I want to do TCG. I've been saying for months I'm going to do it. And the poor TCG guys, I've told them, just hang in there. I'm going to get you an FA soon. But no, look, that's a good value proposition for us to explore, because it's another metaverse. It's the largest metaverse on Binance Smart Chain. So then we can explore concepts such as e-commerce, play to earn. Again, because play to earn comes in so many different shapes and sizes, and the more models play to earn sort of mechanics the reader, the audience get exposed to, the more comfortable you're going to be with the concept and the more you're better to understand it. So I think that would be a really good one as a second FA. So yeah, happy to do Ripple. I mean, it's going to be interesting, but
I can't imagine you sitting down at your computer and going, I have to write an FA about Ripple.
I think if I can motivate myself pretty much in the way that Joe's just described, because there are dangers to it, and there aren't a lot of deep dives out there that aren't riddled with some sort of bias, like an ultra bias one way or the other. Clearly, it's obvious where I stand.
It's probably good
to be objective.
Yeah, he's probably good as well. We've talked a bit there about, obviously there's some bias here that we've seen through it, a lot of the fundamentals, and we've raised that. But there's also the flip side as well, is if you go into an investment in Ripple with your eyes wide open and know what you're getting into on a short-term level, you know it's a retail-driven coin, a hype-driven coin. You can make tremendous amounts of money on XRP and Ripple. You really can.
I agree.
As an investor, you do have to manage that sort of expectation on, is this coin going to be, the next massive thing, new global payments, new Bitcoin, blah, 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 all that. put that to one side if you're thinking with your investor hat on. So I just wanted to maybe be clear for everyone here. We're not saying, don't invest in XRP and Ripple because it's, blah, blah, blah and why. But if you have that shorter term, high risk position in your portfolio and you
bring you.
yes, Shiba Inu or Dogecoin or whatnot, you can
Yeah,
play
we know a
that
guy who made a killing off
in your
that.
portfolio. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and I will put my hand up and say I invested in Ripple. I bought some at 12 cents. Fortunately, that was in 2018, just before it hit something like $3, whatever it was or more.
Yeah.
But I invested in it because I thought it was a good investment opportunity, not because I liked the project. I've invested in Shiba, which I did incredibly well off for a 2-day period, which I moved in and out of because I knew that it was a sentiment-driven coin. So yeah, I think that will be part of the case that you make as well, Tristan. This is how people are behind in the communities. This is why it gets so much traction, because people want it to succeed. And it's that kind of, that mentality of that's okay, but I think it's good to know what you're investing in and why you're investing in it. If it's a short term or, okay, this is actually a really incredible life-changing project for the long term.
Well, look, and what we do with these FAs as well, I mean, as you guys know, is that we're always tying it back into a concept or an underlying concept in cryptocurrencies, and CBDCs are a massive subject that now I think about it, we haven't even touched on yet.
We did a bit in 2 months ago, I think it was.
I'm trying to think what we were using it for. I always take an opportunity to rant against CBDCs because they really are just horrible things. But no, it is good. It's a good opportunity to explore it properly because there's even though I hate them, right, there are pros and cons.
I think we covered it in the respect that we were talking about gold. If Russia backs their currency with gold, it's still going to be on a centralized ledger, and there will be it's basically a CBDC, and they interact with China with their digital yuan. So, and then the countries will just flow out and sort of join them in that regard, and it's not good.
Awesome. Cool. What I'll do really quickly, I'm just conscious of how long these recordings go, and some people are probably thinking, oh, I'll let them go longer, and some people might not watch it because they might go too long. So just want to kind of jump into, I'll really only look at Bitcoin's chart here, I think. I'm not going to jump into any of the other ones right now. Just making sure I'm sharing my screen here. You can see the trading chart.
Yep.
Awesome. Cool. So let's start on the weekly, and then we can just narrow in a bit, and we can have a general discussion as to what's going on and where we're at. So right now we're sitting with a fair amount of support on the weekly underneath the position of where we're at, but we've seen that support has been broken down a number of times into lower zones as we kind of tripped into that 50 moving average on the weekly. If we lose this level, then there's a lot of danger really below that, the kind of the low 30s. And that really would put us down to where this 200 moving average is moving closer and closer towards on the weekly, which might be pulled up to that 24K range, which in my weekly session I ran last week, I spoke about the CVDD range being around that level as well. So yeah, it's going to be really interesting to see how this plays out. And today, I believe, and tomorrow, the US is behind. So tomorrow and the day after, is it for us? With what's going on in terms of how they act towards the interest rates, isn't it?
Yeah, correct. We'll find out tonight. And with this as well, we've been building it up quite a bit, and that's what markets generally do. And I think we're seeing a lot of the downside be priced in this action here, especially when you look at the S&P 500 and NASDAQ and different things like that. I think anything that is anticipated, and I think I was speaking with Tom in the graduates group about this, anything that's anticipated by the markets or deemed not to be too outlandish, like a 0.5 interest rate rise is basically baked in now. If they come out with something unexpected that surprises everyone, it's 0.75, 1%, and then they say that they're cutting their assets under management as well, then I think markets are really going to freak out. And then we're probably going to see that tantrum that could bring us down to those You can see there on the S&P 500 that probably puts that 4,000 to 3,800 area on the table. And if that happens, then it'll flow down to Bitcoin. And then those $33,000 to $24,000 levels are really at risk across the board. So it's a bit of a domino effect. And we're just, the entire sort of ecosystem of markets right now is just hanging on what happens for the next 2 days.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, we speak about this a lot in terms of what's going on in the RSI trend. It looks like there's just such a long downtrend that's been forming over the weeks here, which we really need to break out of in order to kind of have any move forward from here. Where do you see this going in your thoughts then, Sam? Do you feel that there's going to be some positive news or negative news from the hearing, and then we're going to get a quick flush, or do you not think that that flush is going to really happen?
I hate to say this, but I'm absolutely on the fence right now. I feel like markets would be telling us right now what is going to happen. There'd be leaks. If it was worse than what it is, we'd probably see it in Bitcoin because it's been trading, over the weekend and the start of this week, and Bitcoin has still held 38,000. I feel like 0.5 is going to happen, but I think the reality for the Federal Reserve is they're seeing their yields go through the roof, and the US dollar is incredibly high. They're looking at wages, they're looking at their growth. If they go too high interest rates, any meaningful raises anyway, they'll do a few increments, I believe, but any real harder than that, they're putting their economy into a recession during during this time. And it is very hard to see. They've never done that in the past. So yeah, my view is we're going to see a period of short-term tightening, and, markets really trying to go through this period and freak out a little bit. But after that, I think things turn around to the back end of the year as this liquidity constraint really takes hold. I'm seeing a lot of sovereign debt issues, and I don't think governments are going to want to go bankrupt. You can see that in the Bank of Japan, as well as other central banks as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And the US dollar, obviously, at its all-time highs, where most people are jumping in on right now, which we saw before through COVID, right? When the US dollar went through the roof. People jumped to that, where people assumed it was going to be gold, but it wasn't really the right narrative at that time for it. So
correct.
Awesome. All right, well, I might end it here because obviously there's a lot more that we could probably say about this. I might actually have a very quick narrowed down look on the daily. That's the divergence that you can see on the lower time frame, where sure, this might be on the extended. On the weekly, you can see that there's a long way to go to break out of this kind of multi-month downtrending cycle with the RSI and the weakness of the market. But in the short term, we have seen a slight uptrend against the downtrending price, which often is a bullish divergence, meaning the price is going to go up. So that's one to watch as well, to see if we continue to trend in that kind of uptrend strength of the market whilst the price is going down, to have a movement.
I'd probably add here, Joe, if you are purely, this is just my personal opinion, but if I was just looking at the technicals on this chart and I had no knowledge of what's happening in the macro and the Fed and all that, I'd say this is looking very, very good for a long setup. Or you see that it's squeezing down into this descending wedge. You're seeing the bulls gain momentum. Bullish divergence on the daily generally do play out. Not all the time, but that to me looks like in the short term, at least, it's due for a pop to the upside. So bears really want to stick in the knife here, especially if the news falls their way. But if it doesn't, then it could get interesting.
Yeah, nice, awesome, cool. Anything else to share before I finish off the recording for everyone? Oh, we were going to talk about changing out. Someone mentioned why this moved out of the table with Matisse. I think we're not going to necessarily get into the specifics of it because Sam's already answered that in the groups, but I do think we will add in, if we do remove anyone, then we'll give a quick explanation as to why we removed it. Thanks for bringing that up, and we love feedback as well, everyone. If you've got any feedback on what we're doing, then please bring it forward to us, because it helps us to improve the content of what we're sharing as well. Easy. Anything else to share, boys?
I'm good.
Cool.
No, all good.
Thanks for tuning in, and yeah, look out for the Ripple FA. I can't wait to read it.
Oh, I can't wait to write it.
Can't wait for all the memes.